people don't trust us. There is over-emphasis on energy prices and food prices. If GDP doesn't grow, then purchasing power cannot grow.
Hello, I'm Angela Barnes and you're watching The Big Question, a series from Euronews where we speak to leaders about some of the biggest topics on today's business agenda. And today I'm joined by Agnès Bénassy-Quéré, the Deputy Governor of the Banque of France. Agnès, it's a pleasure to have you with us on The Big Question on Euronews.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. Now, it's been a very eventful year for France. You have had a snap election and then the Olympic Games as well in August. Are you able to share any data on how the Olympics has helped boost the French economy?
Okay, so the cost of the Olympic Games is not fully known at this stage. There's some estimations, about 9 billion. Half of it is operations, so the organization, and half of it is investments. Among the operations, 96% is funded by private funds. And then for investment, it's about half-half, private and public. So the total cost of the Olympic is not so high. It's about a bit more than 2 billion for the public finances. Now, on the benefit side, we can only guess what's going to happen. According to Statistical Institute and from our own business survey, we are surveying about 8,000 companies in France. We estimate that quarter-on-quarter growth rate for the third quarter could be boosted by about 0.25 percentage point. And this comes from mainly services. In the private sector, it concerns hotels, restaurants, transportation, security, but also broadcasting and, of course, the sales of tickets. So this is a short-term effect. It's a one-off. So only for one quarter, then we are back to the normal growth rate. And then the longer-term effect is, of course, extremely uncertain. The specialist of this topic is well known, is Vladimir Andreev, and he estimates the gain of about 10 billion, but spread over 17 years, so a very long period. Huge uncertainty, of course, on this.
Just on GDP, the OECD projections in July point to a slowdown in France's GDP growth from 1.1% in 2023 to 0.8% in 2024. But it's expected to rise to 1.3% in 2025, and inflation as well expected to ease to 2% in 2025. Do you agree with these projections?
So in terms of GDP growth, these projections are close to our projections in June, where we had 0.8% growth in 24 and a recovery next year and the year after. In terms of inflation, we think that harmonized headline inflation could go below 2% next year. However, we are in the process of making a new forecast, so we'll see.
Okay, we will see. And we talk a lot about inflation going up and down. Can you just put in perspective what it means for average French citizens and those across Europe watching central bank decisions when it comes to interest rates?
Okay, so GDP is a measure of total wealth that is created during a year, and this wealth is distributed to households, firms, so to workers and capital owners, and to the government. So for households, it's the root of their purchasing power. If GDP doesn't grow, then purchasing power cannot grow.
Recent economic data indicates that France is heading in the right direction. Unemployment has fallen. Annual inflation edged up to 2.3% in July. These developments, though, are seen as positive for France. But how concerned are you about geopolitical tensions and the market impact on energy prices, for example, setting back the progress made on inflation?
So if I take the first part of your question, I think it points to a very important topic, which is the perception of inflation and of the growth of purchasing power, where the research says that there is over-emphasis on energy prices and food prices. Hence, households have a biased perception of their own purchasing power. On the top of that, the fact that part of the increase in purchasing power over the last years has come from employment. So if I'm already employed today and next year I'm still employed, it could be that my real wage, so the purchasing power of my wage, revenue, comes down, but my neighbor who was unemployed has got a job and his purchasing power has increased. And of course, the accounting mixes the two and gets an increase in purchasing power. So when we say that purchasing power in France has not declined during this extraordinary period, this is kind of miracle and people don't trust us. Whereas in 2009, purchasing power did decline in France. So this is a big difference, and in terms of prices, energy accounts for about 10% of the consumption basket. And in energy, you don't just have oil and gas, the bulk of it is electricity, actually. And so our view is that, of course, an increase in oil prices has a negative impact on purchasing power. What was seen in 21 and 22 was an explosion, I would say, of gas prices. But the gas markets at that time were local, hence with the invasion of Ukraine by Russia and the impact on the gas market was very European, so there was a huge impact on prices. We are unlikely to see such an impact in the coming years because the oil market and now today the gas market that has become more global. So since it's global, then the adjustment is spread over the entire market.
And let's talk as well, Agnès, about resilience, because the knock-on effect of COVID-19 globally had such a huge and profound impact on businesses, and it touched everybody's lives in some way. And we've also got the conflicts, as we just spoke about as well. Climate change have all continued to contribute to essentially testing resilience globally. But how resilient has, in your view, the French economy and businesses become as a result of all of these events?
I think the resilience has surprised everybody. With this huge boost of inflation and the strong reaction of the central banks, the very fast increase in interest rates, we didn't get a recession and we didn't get a financial crisis. And these are two remarkable results. So we get the disinflation. The disinflation is well underway, proceeding month after month with kind of instability due to base effects, but it's going. So we are quite confident about it. And this is thanks partly to the reversal, of course, of energy prices, but partly to the strong monetary policy. And with all this leverage in the financial sector, we didn't get a financial crisis. There were some accidents, Credit Suisse, SVB, but there was no banking crisis with a big B. So this is a remarkable macro result. Now, at the micro level, we have a picture of small and medium-sized enterprises for France at the end of 23 with the tax files they have to return. And this is quite positive on average. We see a resilience of these firms in terms of cash, in terms of value added profits, in terms of declining debt, in terms of markup, in terms of profitability, I said. This is the average. Now you see in France, like in other countries, an increase in the bankruptcy rate. So the last figure is about 60,000 bankruptcies over a month. So it seems a very large number. It's more than pre-COVID, but it's about the same as a long-term average between 2010 and 2019. And on top of that, you need to look also at the creation of firms, which is about 90,000. So the net creation is positive.
Agnès, what more needs to be done to withstand the unpredictability of the future and protect those SMEs and firms that are falling into the pitfalls of bankruptcy?
So the economists are quite sharp on this. They tend to say that bankruptcy is part of the normal working on a capital economy, and they see bankruptcies positively in terms of freeing capital and labor to more productive projects. So it's not necessarily a negative outcome, to the extent that there is no scar, especially for the CEO and the workers. So there is a need to take care of the people, not necessarily of the business itself.
Ursula von der Leyen is back for her second term at the top of the European Commission, and the next 5 years certainly look to be challenging. Brussels is gearing up for a battle over its finances as it struggles to both increase defence expenditure and continue with the green transition. There's also a lot of preparation to do potentially on the widening of the bloc. What do you see as the biggest economic challenges for the Banque de France and the European Central Bank in the next 5 years?
Difficult question. I would say that there are three main challenges. The first one is to complete the disinflation, to come back to 2% inflation rate over the medium term, which is the mandate of the central bank. We are still above 2% and declining, but we need to finish the work, to quote a famous president, and also to cope with new shocks. Second challenge is innovation. As a central bank, we need to adjust to the innovation that is taking place in the financial sector, crypto assets, for instance, adapt the supervision of the system, but we also need to innovate ourselves, to use artificial intelligence, to use maybe the blockchain in the area of wholesale payments, for instance. The third challenge, I would say, is climate change. Climate change is really a challenge for central banks because, on the one hand, it's a source of shocks. Natural disasters are inflationary. And transition climate policies are also a source of shocks to prices. Transition policies have two impacts. One could be inflationary with the carbon tax, and the other one is the depletion of public finance, which shifts the burden of stabilization to central banks. And of course, central banks also need to play a role in terms of greening the financial system, which has already started with green stress tests, for instance, that have been implemented for banks and for insurance companies, and this is going to continue.
Well, Agnès, thank you very much for sharing all of your insights on everything from interest rates, inflation to the challenges ahead. It's been wonderful having you on The Big Question.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. And thank you very much all for watching. If you want to check out our other episodes, then head over to YouTube, the Euronews YouTube channel, and just type in The Big Question. You'll be able to watch them there. And do keep across Euronews Business on the euronews.com website, where you'll also be able to watch the shows. Thank you very much.